So for those of you watching online, through the good graces of Colin and the generosity of the Sangha, we've managed to get a new sound system, the lavalier, for the recording of our teishos. So we'll see how it goes. So thank you. So today's Valentine's Day, right? Some of our regulars aren't here. I guess they're out with their significant others. And sure enough, just as I left the house today, left the church, right out on the sidewalk was this, Somebody had opened up their thing and just tossed it. But that is what I want to talk about today. Take advantage of the day and talk about the heart. And, even specifically this, what that has to teach us. Because, the heart isn't actually shaped like that, not really. Unless, and of course, on your smartphone, your emoji, it looks exactly like that. It's red, bright red, and it's, So what is it saying? Well, of course, the red is the fire of love and the blood and, the passion and all of that, which we should be able to feel as well, in our practice, as I'll be saying. But I think there's a lesson too in the well, it's just like the doubling, 2 in 1 here. It's a symbol of love, if you like, where two become one. And we know medically too, the chambers, the two sides of the heart, the left and the right, with their different functions. It's a symbol of, in the center of meridian in yoga practice. So it's unification of the right and the left, the masculine and feminine, and all that. It's even a marriage of that. A love of that, a symbol of that. But I was thinking too, even more medically, there are actually 4 chambers in the heart, and there's a lesson there in how energy works, obviously physically in our own bodies with the blood circulation, but also how it works, that we receive first, in the auricles, and then the ventricle pumps it out. So that's in fact, of course, how it works. We receive the energy, and we don't hold on to it. If we do, we get our heart clogs and we stop. The energy is meant to circulate, literally, like the blood. So we receive it and then pump it out, or just let it flow out, to us, to ourselves, but also to the world. And I thought there was maybe even a lesson in the fact that there are, the two sides doing that: the right auricle, the left auricle, left ventricle, left auricle. So the blood is received and then goes up to the lungs to be energized. So that's another symbol of receiving and energizing. And then comes back and then is received back and then pumped out in its vital form. So we're continually being revitalized, receiving and giving out again. And I think that's a good image for the way our spiritual life works, and the way the energy flow works, the receiving, the revitalizing, and then the pumping out again. There's a lot of esoteric stuff associated with the heart, of course. The heart is the central spiritual organ, as I'll be saying again in a moment. The red is also the color of the chakra, the heart chakra. And there's also a back heart chakra, according to my own teacher anyway, so both are red. And that's part of the meridian, part of the, receiving, going down and up again, the Kundalini flow, so it's up down the front and up the back, that kind of thing. So you have front and back heart chakra, and I'll be coming back to that in a second. But it is a red color, 12-petaled lotus, as they say, connected also to the 960 petals of the divine heart. My own teacher spoke about the twin hearts meditation, where you open up your heart, your physical heart, your emotional heart, and that's the essential first step to receiving the divine energy, the divine heart through the crown, to begin the flow, to receive that flow, which is a really important point. If your own emotional heart is blocked, and I'll be coming back to that in a second, you won't be open to the divine flow either. You have to have a certain purging of that, a certain opening of your human heart before the divine heart can effectively communicate to you. Just in terms of energy, to have the flow come in, your heart has to be open. The gem associated with the heart, you might think would be a ruby or something like that, but it's not. It's an emerald. It's green, which is interesting. Maybe that has to do with the fruitfulness or the viridity, the verdure, so to speak, of the heart, and the gentleness of the heart. But of course, the ruby is strong as well. In terms of that flow in the tarot and in the Kabbalah, the tarot is the lovers. The lovers, the sixth one, it actually corresponds to the heart, so that fits perfectly. And the Hebrew letter is the waw, which is and it joins two thoughts, so that's also a symbol of union. We've kind of talked about some of this before, but I just throw it out. If anything sparkles and you want to take it, just do that. But I'm just throwing a few of these things out. Coming back up again, it corresponds to the sun card. So there you have the sun, the blazing sun of the heart, and the letter kaf, which is used in Hebrew for words like awake and the summer and kol. It's very evocative. And in terms of the 7 days of creation, the fourth day comes to the heart, and that's the creation of the sun, and the moon and the stars, which are also the stars, the moon and the sun are in sequence in the tarot cards too. So it's all kind of interesting. And of course, it corresponds, in the bodhisattvas to the Avalokiteshvara, the goddess of compassion, the bodhisattva of compassion, in that whole emotional realm. And also to, and we've spoken about this before, Akshobhya, which is the warrior to purge the heart precisely of all that, as I was saying a moment ago, that obstructs the flow of compassion. It's the heart in the playing cards, or the cups in the tarot, where it receives the energy, the Holy Grail. We've talked about that before, the blood coming down, or wine, or it gets progressively more viscous. You get oil, and then the honey. In the Native American tradition, the energy is yellow honey coming down. It's interesting. And then it becomes pure diamond, pure transparency, pure the hardness of the diamond that lets light and fire come through without obstruction. One thing that I've been intrigued about in terms of Zen, particularly, is in Zen, and you should be aware of this as your meditation continues. The energy is centered in, not so much aware of the heart as you are of the hara. The secondary navel chakra down here. That's where the energy is stored. You don't have to practice very long, I think, before you really do experience that. Nobody's making this up. This is actually where, and my own yoga teacher confirmed that, this is where energy is stored. You can actually feel it in your gut, the hara. So how does that relate? Is the heart the center, or is the hara the center? Or do we even need to talk about centers? Because the point is that they're all energetically related. They're all circulating. So, why argue about it? I think, in my own experience, there is an interchange between the two. You can store and receive energy, but then it goes to the heart. Talking about the circulation. And if the heart is open, you get even more energy in the hara. So it's mutually nourishing. There's another interesting correspondence. I talked about the emerald, which is a form of beryl. Beryl is literally is the gem of the back navel chakra, so that's a correspondence there. And the back heart chakra, interestingly enough, as the way the energy passes through the back heart chakra is only if your heart is full of forgiveness, which is really interesting. So if you don't have forgiveness in your heart, the energy will be blocked, and the flow will stop. So that's an interesting, well, a really important thing to note as well. So there is, this flow with these different energy centers in the body. But I have found myself over the last 5 years or so, despite a strong sense of the hara, in my Zen practice, that the heart, it really is crucial to develop the openness of the heart and to experience the openness of the heart becomes more and more open. And then your life can really change. Because you live more and more on the level of the heart, not on the level of the mind, for example, which is, if you're in your mind, there's no such thing as peace of mind, as I've said before, quoting Richard Rohr. If you have peace, you're not in your mind, and if you're in your mind, you don't have peace. And I find it's really helpful on the subway, or whenever you tend to be, why is he doing that, or why is this happening? And your mind is going through all these things, trying to control the universe. But if you actually just literally go down into your heart, or as the ancients said, let your mind sink down into your heart, well, it's a whole different vibrational world. And it's all that fuss and fury just vanishes. Because the heart doesn't care about any of that stuff. Why is it 6 minutes late? It doesn't care at all. So live more here. Make sure it's a place that you can live. You clean out the house. But then once you're there, don't be flying up into the tower here where the mind is trying to take control of things. The heart really is central. Cynthia Bourgeault, in her book on Heart of Centering Prayer, goes into it very deeply, and speaking about the heart is the organ of spiritual perception, the actual physical heart. And this is something, the Islamic mystics developed very much, as she says, the sense of the heart. The actual physical heart as a spiritual organ, and it resonates on all sorts of levels. It circulates energy on all sorts of levels. By nature, this is its actual role. So it's not just a physical organ to circulate blood, as I've been implying really all along here, but it is, and neuroscience confirms this too, that it is also, of course on the emotional level, but also on the spiritual level. It's meant to vibrate, to resonate, to circulate, energy on the spiritual level. Because, we have all these different levels of consciousness, energy bodies, etc., that surround and that are within us. So it is indeed an organ of spiritual perception. She says, its primary function, the heart, is to look beyond the obvious, the boundaried surface of things, and see into a deeper reality, emerging from some unknown profundity which plays lightly upon the surface of this life without being caught there. So it goes out to the particular, but doesn't get caught there. It's coming from a deeper level. A world where meaning, insight, and clarity come together in a whole different way. She suggests that this is what St. Paul meant by faith. Being able to see in a dark place, not a leap of faith, but as she says, just a spiritual night vision, where all these things, everything comes together in a deeper and richer way. She quotes Kabir Helminski many times, and she says here again, we have subtle subconscious faculties we're not using. Beyond the limited analytic intellect is a vast realm of mind, a mind in the deepest possible sense. They comprise a mind, moreover, in spontaneous connection to the cosmic mind. So it resonates like the different lotuses. It resonates with the divine as well, the higher mind, the cosmic mind. Emptiness and form, if you will, connected. Mm-hmm. This total mind we call heart. It's the antenna that receives the emanations of subtler levels of existence. Its proper field of function is beyond the limits of the superficial reactive ego self. So we become more focused, energized, subtle, and refined, joining it to its cosmic milieu, the infinity of love. So this is a level of feeling. She explains this in some detail. Feeling beyond emotion or passion, which can be turbulence in the heart, that kind of thing we have to get beyond. which is just suffered. It's not actually experienced or received or generated, but it is level of feeling. Feeling is not something superficial. At the deepest level, feeling is the energy of the cosmos itself, as it vibrates within us, in our particular, computer station here that we are, in particular connection to the universe. This feeling is of an entirely different order, no longer affixed to a personal self-center, the ego, but flowing in holographic union with that which can always and only flow, the great dynamism of love. So ultimately it's a hologram of the circulation of cosmic energy, cosmic love itself. And it's the organ of contemplation and luminous sight. And grace upon grace flows through this vibrating reed and on out into a transfigured world, transfigured by the very grace of being bathed in this undivided light. Blessed are the pure of heart, they shall see God. Who knew? And so she quotes that beatitude. Eckhart Tolle speaks of this kind of thing very much in his section on This is Good for Valentine's Day. From addictive to enlightened relationships. Nice journey, right? Most relationships are addictive. In fact, he pretty much implies the more passionately you fall in love, the more disastrous it's going to wind up. Because you're just connecting to people's, to your dysfunction and to the codependency and to all the stuff that you want people to fulfill in you, and you're not balanced at all. So real love goes, deep love is beyond that, which is the kind of love our heart is really made for. As he says at the very end, love is a state of being. It's deep within you. You cannot lose it, and it cannot leave you. Your heart is that, if it's fully liberated and fully itself. It is not dependent on some other body, some external form. In the stillness of your presence, you can feel your own formless and timeless reality as the unmanifested life that animates you. And then you can feel the same life deep within every other human and every other creature. You look beyond the veil of form and separation. This is the oneness, the emptiness. This is the realization of oneness. And this is love. So in other words, that very circulation, that very resonance of the energy, that you connect with in everyone and everything, that flow is already love. It's the energy of the universe. So he says, what is God? The eternal one life underneath all the forms of life. What is love? To feel the presence of that one life deep within yourself and within all creatures. To be it. Therefore, all love is love of God, however you understand that ultimate reality. And finally, in this paragraph I want to share, which is really interesting. When you talk about the special love, love is not selective. Cosmic love's not selective. Just as the light of the sun is not selective. It does not make one person special. Now, before you protest, it's not exclusive. Exclusivity is not the love of God, but the love of ego. So if it's exclusive in any direct sense, it's not love. However, he says, the intensity with which true love is felt can vary. There may be one person who reflects your love back to you more clearly and more intensely than others, and if that person feels the same toward you, well, it can be said that you are in a love relationship with him or her, and that's perfectly valid, The bond that connects you with that person, however, is the same bond that connects you with the person sitting next to you on the bus. Essentially, it's the same love. You're just feeling it a little differently. Or with a bird, or a flower, or a tree, he says. Only the degree of intensity with which it is felt differs. And I would add, blessed are you if you can feel an intense, passionate love for the stone on the front of you on the path. Why not? It's infinite cosmic love which is circulating right there. If your heart and your whole being are open to it. Spoke about the Islamic mystics. So I was just looking at the introduction to this book of Rumi's poems. And I had been saying to myself, all this talk about the heart, Zen doesn't talk about the heart at all. I mean, there are no koans, and this is true. As far as I know, as far as I recall, there are no koans which actually speak about the heart. I mean, literally the word heart. And then I said, oops, the Heart Sutra. Okay. And so he actually reminded me here of the introduction to the Islamic mystics. He says the absolute ipseity, the suchness, the human reality, not the melodrama, but the actual deep human reality, that region of being is described in the Heart Sutra, the central text of Zen, and this is a quote from the Heart Sutra: no eyes, no ears, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no consciousness. In other words, it's the cosmic, it's the emptiness. But remember, and that goes out to form, and it's inseparable from form, so it embraces the stone on the path. Precisely because it's cosmic and is empty and is everything. Emptiness is form and form is emptiness, the central tenet of the Heart Sutra itself. And he says, to get there you must die before you die, which I've often said, quoting Richard Rohr. Buddha's Heart Sutra draws one along to the understanding that in that dissolving, nothing exists by itself. And this is that, dependent co-arising, that interpenetration of everything. Everything interpenetrates in the ecstatic core where heart vision begins. So that's why everything is connected, everything is embraced in this love. It's not separate from this one great flow. And finally, this has to lead to action then in the world, and does organically lead to action in the world. And I quote from the introduction to The Infinite Circle, Teachings on Zen by Bernie Glassman, whose memorial service is this Sunday. He died recently, and his memorial service is this Sunday. But speaking about, first of all, he mentions in Zen there are two ways of describing reality. All is one, everything is Buddha, and then the manyness, the multitude, as I was just saying, about emptiness and form, and back and forth. So they're essentially the same, but they're both valid. Now he says, I see the issue of oneness and diversity not only as a primary issue in Zen practice, but as the issue in the peacemaking world. Oneness and diversity, to respect the diversity, but to look for the oneness and to bring about, to recognize the oneness that we all share. So I see this, he says, in the many places around the globe where systematic massacres and widespread ethnic cleansing are predicated on the notion that there's only one way to be, one way to behave, one God to believe in, that all else is somehow invalid. There are always some things that we exclude from the one. Now that's a good test for ourselves. Who or what are we excluding from the one, from that cosmic energy that's supposedly flowing to us and from us and through us? If anybody's excluded, as we just heard, love is not exclusive. We just heard that from Eckhart. It's not itself yet, not fully. We can't possibly believe that they're enlightened as they are, or that we can't believe that they are it. We see in a dualistic, inside-outside way. We should be experiencing the vibrancy of everything as it is at this very moment. That's what I mean. The vibrancy of everything at this very moment. Everything at this very moment. The vibrancy which we are. The heart itself is vibrating, isn't it? That should be a lesson to us, that all this energy is vibrating in us and through us. And that it's what we are. Such levels of freedom and compassion in the heart that you would never imagine. Which is a quote from Jack Kornfield in today's page-a-day calendar, Zen. We have that heart which is infinitely free. So let the energy flow and, enjoy it.